Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 3 is finally here, and these are the top 5 changes that you need to know about. I'm posting this video about a day after the season dropped, so I'm assuming a lot of you have already played by now, but there are probably a few things you missed, so make sure to watch till the end to make sure you know everything new about the new season. Starting off at number 5, we have the new mythic weapons, the mythic combat assault rifle, the mythic boom bolt, and the mythic nitro fists. I'll talk more about the fists later. Now the NPCs work a little bit differently this season. They can spawn either at their POIs or somewhere else randomly around the map. Besides the one at the Nitro Dome, that one spawns there 100% of the time. But the combat AR spawns with the NPC, the Machinist, who can spawn either at the red line rig or anywhere else on the map where they're driving around to. The other NPC is the Megalodon, who spawns at Brutal Beachhead or obviously, like I said, anywhere else around the map wherever their car happens to spawn. Now the combat AR is pretty straightforward. We've had combat ARs in the meta in the past. This one is just a mythic version, so obviously it's a bit better, and it has attachments this time, and it has a lot less recoil. The boom bolt is new. I'll show you some clips in the background. It's pretty good. It's kind of like a sticky grenade launcher, but it does a little bit more damage, I believe, and it's a little bit harder to hit your shots. Now that's mostly all for the mythic weapons, but we also have the mythic nitro fists, and going into number 4 on our list, we have nitro and nitro fists. Nitro is a new mechanic which is kind of like slap that we've had in the past, where you can get it from weird barrel looking things that spawn around the map, or you can get it from splashes that are called nitro splashes. And what nitro allows you to do is walk into any wall while tack sprinting, and you basically deal 300 damage to it. And if you know anything about the health of builds, this means you can go straight through a wood wall and a brick wall while almost being able to go through a metal wall as well. You'll just have to deal a little bit more damage to it. It also hits people for 70 damage if you run into them, so this is definitely something that's going to change the meta up a lot this season. And nitro splashes or any other way to get nitro are definitely going to be pretty broken this season. The nitro fists are kind of like the chains from last season, the Hades chains if you remember those, but they also give you movement that's similar to the katanas from Chapter 4 Season 2. You're able to dash into the sky and slam down on players, kind of like a shockwave hammer, but it's a bit different. It's more of a melee weapon than a mobility item, but it's kind of able to be used like both, which makes it super strong and definitely something that you're going to want to carry in pubs, ranked, and tournaments. Another thing that's going to change up the meta a lot is cars. This season, cars are super important, and you're going to need a car if you want to win a game, which is kind of crazy, but obviously cars aren't going to spawn in tournaments, but for pubs and ranked, they're almost a necessity if you actually want to win, because the two bosses that spawn at either Redline Rig or Brutal Beachhead also spawn with cars that are very broken. I'll put some footage in the background because these cars are actually just insane. The one from Brutal Beachhead actually has 4 seats in it, and the turret at the top is kind of like a proximity grenade launcher, which is pretty broken, and you can basically spam it. Well, infinitely, really. It has infinite ammo. And when you run people over, it also has a cow catcher in the front, which does an insane amount of damage to enemy players. The second car spawns at the red line rig or wherever the NPC from there spawns, and this one only has room for 2 players, but the turret on the top is more of like the turret we've seen in the past on like the battle buses from Chapter 3, and it does an insane amount of damage as well. It does 30 damage per hit, which is just crazy, and it also has a cow catcher on the front, so it's insane to run people over. Now the best part of these two vehicles is that they have infinite gas, infinite boost, it just has to recharge, and their health regenerates as you spend time without taking damage. Basically what I'm saying is you need to use these cars if you want to get free wins in ranked and pubs. Moving on to number 2, we have map changes. Now this season actually brought a lot of map changes. Similar to last season, we saw the introduction of an entirely new biome, but this one is way bigger than the last one. Basically, Epic took the bottom half of the map and expanded it down a pretty big ways to add the new Brutal Beachhead and Redline Rig, along with changing Snooty Steps to Sandy Steps and adding the Nitro Dome where Fencing Fields once was. Now in this new biome, there are plants that are similar to the slurp plants from Chapter 4 in the wilds area of the map, but these plants are actually cacti, and they give you 30 shield or health when you break them, and they take 10 seconds to regen, which is actually really fast, and they're definitely going to play a very big role in competitive. And going back to number 3 with the cars, you can also run over them with the cars, and they will heal all 4 of you in the car and your car. So these cacti are very important, and you definitely are going to want to know about them. And there are also very big boost things. I don't really know what they're called yet, but they're scattered throughout the desert, and when you go through them, you actually get a nitro effect for a limited amount of time, and they also just boost you really far, so you definitely want to know about those as well. When you boost through them, if you slide and just keep jumping with the nitro you get when you go through it, you can get really far really quickly, and it's definitely one of the biggest features of the desert biome. Another crazy part of this new part of the map is that there is just an insane amount of loot. There are also launch pads scattered throughout the southern part that lines the beach, and just a lot more metal than anywhere else on the map, really. But moving on to number 1, our number 1 change this season is the new medallions. Now, all 4 of the medallions last season have been removed, but they have been replaced with 3 more very strong medallions. One of which is arguably as powerful or more powerful than the Cerberus medallion from last season, which we all know was just absurdly broken, and especially for competitive. The medallion from the red line rig is the Machinist's medallion, which regenerates your shield over time as you lose your shield. It only heals up to 75 shield, I believe, but it heals 5 shield per second, which is insane. It actually might be 3 per second. I can't find any stats on that, but the medallion at the Nitrodome is the Ringmaster's medallion, which gives you infinite ammo in every single weapon and a slight damage buff. Now, the damage buff is pretty insignificant, and you honestly probably won't really notice it at all, but the infinite ammo is super strong, especially because if you remember, the mythic weapon that you get from killing this boss that gives you the medallion is actually the new boom bolt, which takes rocket ammo, and having infinite ammo with an explosive weapon like a sticky grenade launcher, which remember, that's basically what this is super broken. And when you kill that NPC, especially in team game modes, you're definitely going to want to have the mythic and the medallion stacked on one player because they very well complement each other. The last medallion, the very best medallion, is at Brutal Beachhead, and this is Megalodon's medallion, which gives you infinite nitro. And like I said before, nitro is super important this season. It allows you to run faster, jump higher, literally have fall damage immunity, and run through walls if you're sprinting. This is by far the most overpowered medallion this season, which makes Brutal Beachhead, or wherever the medallion spawns, because remember, it can spawn randomly anywhere around the map, a super good place to land in pubs, ranked, and tournaments. Along with the fists, which I recommend you give to the player who doesn't get the medallion, because these fists are basically the same as the other ones, but they actually have 5 charges, and as far as I know, they do a little bit more damage than the normal purple fists. But if you can get the fists for one person on your duo and the medallion to the other person on your duo, you have very good mobility, and you'll most likely be in the desert, so there's just a lot of mobility around anyways, so you are very well set up to have a great game. A couple small changes that didn't make the top 5 are the meta changes, which include the combat shotgun making a return, and it's honestly not as bad as it felt in the past. It actually has the same stats, but for some reason, I guess the weapons are weaker now. You don't have like a super strong like spaz or anything, so the combat actually feels pretty decent, but I still wouldn't pick it up over either the hammer pump or the gatekeeper shotgun. Snipers are also finally vaulted, so no more getting headshot sniped. Finally, there is also a new item called Nuka Cola, which is basically a shield and health healing item. It does 25 health over time and 75 shield over time, so it's very strong, but it only stacks in stacks of 2, so I don't really recommend holding it. It's just viable off spawn basically. But hey, if you can't find anything else, it's definitely worth holding. The Enforcer AR also made a return, and it also got a slight buff with increased damage and increased fire rate, which is good because last time, if you remember, it was pretty slow. It did a lot of damage, but it wasn't really worth holding. This time, it will be just that little bit better. The hand cannon and the tactical assault rifle also received slight buffs. The TAC AR now has increased damage at long distances, so the damage drop off is just a little bit bit less. It has a reduced bullet spread, which is good because it was not very accurate at all before, and it has reduced recoil. The hand cannon also has increased damage at long distances and increased projectile speed, so it travels a bit faster than it did before. The auto shotgun is also finally vaulted, except for some reason Oscar's auto shotgun returned. I don't really know why, but you can find it at Classy Courts. Oscar is actually there as an NPC in both pubs and ranked, not in tournaments, so you don't have to worry about that. But you have to duel him, and if you kill him, for some reason he drops his mythic auto, so I don't know why that's a thing. And also, the Cerberus Gatekeeper shotgun also still drops at Grim Gate. You just get it basically the same way as you get Oscar. You just have to challenge the boss, beat him, and then you get the Gatekeeper. I don't know why those are both still in, but obviously they aren't in tournaments because the NPCs won't spawn in tournaments. There are also a bunch of new tournaments, and if you guys want me to cover that, I could do it in a separate video, maybe a short. Just comment below if you want that. But let me know in the comments if you guys are excited for this season. I think it's looking already a lot better than last season, but we'll have to see how things play out. The car meta is a bit ridiculous, but we'll see if there's any balance changes with that. But that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.